Hello, everyone, and welcome to Day 3 of Ministravaganza, the 7th of its kind. We're here today to kick off our final roadmap of the show, and that is, of course, the Marvel Crisis Protocol roadmap. So for those who are unaware of what a roadmap is, or maybe just need a quick refresher, also to fill a little bit of time, we do these roadmaps where we show off effectively the next 12 months of releases. So we're going to look at things that are going to be coming out soon. We're going to show off some cards, talk about some of the rules design, some of the sculpting, some of the painting, some of the art. We're then going to look at things that are a bit further into the future. We're going to get an update on some of the very far future stuff we looked at our last roadmap at Adepticon just in March, and see how things have progressed and see the final files on those things. And then we're going to move forward even further to things that you have yet to see, some surprises hopefully, and things that'll get people excited for what's coming later into next year. And of course, all this builds off of the next roadmap that we will have at Adepticon in March of 2025. So it's kind of a rolling thing where we continually show and showcase where the game is going, what to expect, what cool things are going to be coming next. And with that said, let's go ahead and introduce the folks that are with me for this panel. We're going to start with you, sir.
I'm Josh Colon. I'm the art director for Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Marco Segovia, the sculpting director.
And Ben Ransom, the lead game developer for Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Beautiful. All right, so let's just go ahead, dive right in, and jump into some card reveals of things that are going to be coming up in the next few months. We already showed off Apocalypse in a big panel on Thursday, so if you missed that, Survival of the Fittest, you can go back and check out an hour-long discussion about everything to do with that character. There was just so much. There was no reason to put him in a roadmap. We had to give him his own little spotlight with the Horsemen and everything else. So we're going to skip right over that, even though he is the most recent upcoming release. Again, you can go check out that panel and get all of the lowdown on him. We're going to move into some of the other mutants that are going to be coming alongside of him, though, which Weapon X and Maverick, we're going to start with them first.
Woo!
Yeah.
So here we have our third version of Wolverine and probably his most iconic look. I think this is the one that everyone thinks of when they think of Wolverine, Weapon X, that classic comic cover, of course, which Josh and Marco, you guys worked really hard to kind of capture that feel and essence in the artwork and in the sculpt. If you want to talk a little bit about how that came about, what the work was.
Thank you very much, Barry Windsor-Smith. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you so much for your amazing legendary art and work, making this one pretty easy and straightforward. Yeah, I mean, what can you say, right? I mean, basically from the concept of the miniatures pose, we had a clear idea. Dallas, knew what he wanted, right? I mean, there's no way that tree stump and that snow was not going to be there, and then, yeah, obviously in the art, it was pretty easy to follow, right? And honestly, the pose, everything, it was almost like a gift. It was almost like a Marvel gift given to us, right? And then I'm pretty sure that just really helped with the sculpt too, and it really helped, realize the sculpt and the final look of the miniature, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we came to a decision on what we wanted to see, so that then we didn't have to go back and forth with all the sci-fi that was drawn in those days.
Right.
Because the challenge with Weapon X is that his helmet is always different and drawn in the classic 80s, 70s drawing of what they think is, advanced technology.
So a lot of circuitry lines.
A lot of lines, a lot of mumbo jumbo, and then we have to then somehow translate that to 3D. And it's like, how do you interpret the nonsense that they drew, what they thought was going to be advanced tech? But we came to the more spherical helmet, and we ended up doing some little edits here and there so that there isn't a million cables around him, but still, we still kept the essence, and the design looks really great.
And you also got the chance to do the iconic snow tree trunk base to make it match with the comic cover. So he does come with that unique base as well, just to make sure that people want to really capture that essence.
Yeah, it's a unique little base topper, so it goes over the existing MCP base.
Nice.
And if you don't want that, and you want it to match the rest of your city bases, you can keep the topper off. So there's that.
Awesome. And then, of course, we also have Maverick with his crazy blaster gun, just doing some wild stuff. Maverick was a really fun design to do alongside of this, as I'm sure Ben's going to talk about a little bit. But when we dove into these characters and we're doing the designs, right, we wanted Weapon X to really represent that kind of unleashed weapon. You'll see that Healing Factor 3, this is Wolverine somewhat at his peak, right, with all of the different modifications and everything going on. But he's also at kind of his most crazy. He's largely there just to be Weapon X's eliminator. And then with all of these Healing Factor characters, Maverick was a fun opportunity to go in because he gets modified by Weapon X during the storyline. to be kind of this anti-healing factor character where you can actually reverse healing. He plays an Uno reverse on your healing factor.
It's great. He's technology in the game and out and in the story, so it's great.
And does some stuff. But go ahead and walk us through a little bit about these characters, like how they evolved from those initial designs and where we wound up.
Yeah, so I mean, Weapon X went through some iteration because he was more deadly and dangerous. I mean, we had to hone it in very closely because he's by far the most killy 3-threat character that you could possibly do, right? Like, he is just an uncontrolled madman that has claws and no regard for friends or foes, and you just send them in, right?
But the funny part, the thing that I like about this one specifically is that he's the Wolverine with the best mystic defense because there's somebody in his brain.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that he's necessarily more resistant in this form, it's the fact that the control helmet has boosted his otherwise like fractured psyche.
He's already being mind controlled. So
Exactly.
it's hard to do it
It's hard to get
anymore.
in there.
Yeah.
You gotta brute force that firewall.
Yeah, so we definitely pushed the barriers of what a 3-threat can do here, and in doing that, I mean, he has downsides in savagery protocols. He can't interact with extracts, and he gets less dice whenever he's on a secure objective. So he's really just there for dazing and KOing things.
Murder.
He's
there for the murder.
He's there for the murder, right? And even keeping your friends around him with uncontrollable weapons, Rampage does damage to each other character, so it includes allies. So he's just a unrestrained weapon, right? So dealing with that sort of character is just a new space, and in playtesting, we were able to hone in just how much we could get away with. How much murder we could get away with on this character.
He definitely started too murdery. He
Yeah.
was over his murder limit.
Yeah, I mean, in playtesting, he had abilities to like attack and move, which made him get away and not get punished for murdering everything. Yeah. So it was pretty problematic, but he honed in very well, right? And with Healing Factor 3, if you don't take him out, it's very, very problematic if he gets to activate again. So we have this built-in possible check, right, so far if Healing Factor gets out of hand, right? We have Maverick, who has the anti-healing factor corrosive, which can be a silver bullet to those Healing Factor characters and make it so that they don't get what they're designed around. And also the big damage reduction effects would remove damage from itself. Sorry, that's Dev Brain. So he's a very, very cool tactical character, Maverick. He has, hit and run, kind of the tactical pack, hit and run. He has rapid fire, and he uses his super strength in Agent Zero, so he has a little bit of that augmentation that's showing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maverick definitely was designed as the intention
Yeah.
was that he would be a bit of a splash character outside of his own affiliations, right? He's
Yeah.
3-threat. He does some pretty interesting stuff. He's not
Absolutely.
particularly great at anything, but he can fit a lot of different roles. And then, of course, he has that anti-healing
Yeah.
factor. So if you're worried about
He's very versatile and
damage
very
removal,
mobile, so whenever
yeah.
you hit him with a physical attack, he gets to move.
Yep.
So that's really, really cool. You get a lot of little movements out of him. You get to make lots of little attacks. It's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like where he came out, and we did kind of an interesting amalgam of his history over the comics, because he's one who, and we kind of referenced that with the Agent Zero attack and some other things on there, little deep cuts to kind of his comic history lore. Because while we may do another Maverick in the future, I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see if the Maverick meta becomes a thing and we get to Maverick 4. All right, let's move on to the next one. We're going to talk about some characters from the New Mutants. So if you were with us for the Team Tactic cards deep dive yesterday, we showed off one new Team Tactic card that comes in this box. It was Survive the Night.
Yeah.
That also revealed the fact that this box is going to be coming with a new affiliation for the New Mutants. That you're going to notice is not on either of these characters. It's actually a separate Team Tactic card that will apply the leadership like some of the others that we've done before, and allow Magic to take on the role of the leader of the New Mutants. And yeah, let's look at these two cards and their sculpts. We'll start with Sunspot, the flame flying effect, amazing. It's one that I forced Marco to do against his wishes, but they pulled it off great. Tony, next slide, please. Well, we know how day 3 is gonna go. You came in, you were like, I'm rested, I'm energized. You didn't go to dinner last night. He's like, I'm ready to play good today, coach. Put me in. Already, we've got an error on the play.
But yeah, the effect on Sunspot is really awesome. It goes together really well, and I mean, this is continuing on our journey to further develop our effects. Evan did an incredible job to really make it bombastic and bring that energy while keeping them up afloat in the miniature. And I mean, what else is there to say? It's just a really cool mini to see on the table.
Yeah, well, and I mean, like, one of the things is when the initial idea, when I presented it, because we were looking at a different version, and I think he was like taking flight or whatever. And I was like, I really want to see him like in the air, like blasting the ground with flames. And you're like, well, bigger base. I was like, fine, put him on a bigger base.
And then we did.
And then it became a balance issue, right? Like you have to find those perfect like little points on the plastic and the tolerance to make sure that he doesn't tip over. And he's really like, you can flick that man pretty hard, and he just kind of wobbles.
Sturdy.
But he
It's
doesn't
a
fall down.
column.
He's basically a Weeble at this point.
Yeah, but they were great edits, so they ended up working really well.
Josh, you have anything to say about the costume? I mean, is your favorite version of this character's costume?
Why do you do this to me? Okay.
It's fine. It's fine. We specifically chose this costume because he's X-Force. This is his X-Force look. I understand.
I got vetoed.
We all wanted the suit.
Yes.
But
yes.
X-Force.
I will tell you this.
This will not be the last Sunspot we do.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
And I will say a couple of things. So this is his. I think it's literally his earliest X-Force. He did have different X-Force costumes since then, but this was one of the strengths about this one is it's like the most colorful, so it does provide the most opportunity for hobbying. The sort of standard Sunspot costume is just like this armor thing. It's literally just black and literally yellow and black. That's literally all you get.
Or he's just Sunspotty, in which case he's just black with effects that you cannot paint because he has an aura around him.
Exactly. So there was a compelling argument to going with this one, and it's got its strengths. And again, we might do another Sunspot. And
I love me a Roberto.
And we this is a case where the 90s characters, there will be a little bit more of an amalgamation of different costumes going on. So just because we're doing Sunspot in this in this costume doesn't mean we'll do all the X-Force characters in that same era.
Nothing to say about Self-Friend Warlock?
Oh my God, he was so much fun. Like, like doing the art was super fun for me. I think it became really early, like even like with Dev, that he has to eat terrain. Like he just has to.
Yeah, that was in the initial design, was to make him kind of interact weirdly with terrain and show that techno-organic virus and how it absorbs things.
So when we designed the pose, we're just like, let's just have him eating like a car.
It's true, you really pulled that effect off on the ground where like his leg is actually consuming that taxi cab door.
Yeah, it was a cool little pixel effect that we ended up doing.
We had,
very cool.
They were different iterations of eating different things. So to find the right one that wouldn't take over the base, but would still read. But I mean, Sculpting did an amazing job with him because that is not easy.
I mean, I'd say the circuitry was a little...
Yeah.
But luckily our experience with the Spider-Man conundrum helped us.
Oh, wow,
case,
really?
Yeah, understanding how to do those inset lines and patterning and stuff.
Yeah, around...
For hard plastic.
Yeah, around a cylindrical object is that, we were able to bypass that and it might not be too complex for us, so...
Yeah, and from a game development or design perspective specifically, as I started with the designs and then Ben and the development team actually turned them into something that would be balanced and playable. For Sunspot, I really wanted to showcase that idea of him like absorbing his energy from the sun and the fact that he can burn out, especially early on, when he has limitations to his power, like all mutants kind of did before the modernity of them all becoming like superhuman extra levels. And the Flare State token idea is a really fun way to kind of show him amping up his abilities. It gives you a little mini game to play with him as a player and determine whether you want to spend them early or hold on to them. And then, of course, Warlock having all these different ways to interact with terrain in ways that we haven't seen yet. We've seen like you can blow up terrain with like Trick or Treat on Green Goblin, and you can do these other things. But the idea that he can, destroy terrain to gain extra dice, or he can destroy terrain to heal. Yeah. It's also a really interesting, I love how it's a counterplay piece to like Brotherhood and Magneto, right? Because Magneto really wants that terrain, Warlock can just be like, no, we're just going to get rid of it. We're just going to get rid of it in multiple different ways.
Yeah, I really like how Warlock plays. He is, I think, really ended up getting built a little bit around his Buster Cannon, so that and his Unstable Outline, that he can stay kind of safe at range and put shock on things. until he gets a little more power, and then he commits, and that does quite a bit of damage with whenever the characters are poisoned, right? With his transmode virus infection. And his terrain destruction is just so cool, right? Being able to heal from the destroying terrain means that if you do actually survive an attack, which New Mutants helps with a little bit, so if you do actually survive an attack, you can heal back up and just keep on going. So it's a great sustained kind of character that also can get in and get really, really dangerous.
Yeah.
So Sunspot is his flare state is his big thing, right? Whenever he moves at all, he gets a flare token, and using those flare tokens, he hits a lot harder, and he can use his sunburn to make long moves whenever he has 3 of them. So he's really has a little bit of a mini game around getting and spending those flare tokens, and. His
throw too, his high energy conversions depend on flare tokens too, right?
That's right. Yes.
So like there's a lot going on with how many tokens you want or need.
And New Mutants have a little have good access to a place effect as well, which helps him fuel up with his flare state. So he is. It's fun to see that mechanic of him kind of charging up power from the sun. We translated that into him charging up from moving, right? Because we didn't have access to
the sun.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have, but you
yeah, we'd have to do like
let's be honest.
yeah.
Trigonometry and all that stuff.
I've tried to get moon phases into the game as like an external thing.
Well, we did
no.
get moon phases into the game.
This is a die roll. Come on.
We did get moon phases into the game. That'll come later. But
later.
I mean,
there's another character. There's so many characters that deal with the moon.
But there is a moon phase thing.
What I do quickly like about what I like about where Sunspot ended up is, despite this amazing effect on his base, in the comics, especially at the state, he's more punchy than he is a shooty guy, right? He like you said, he will burn himself out if he shoots too much, and we kind of got that in the cart, right? Like he's throwing, he's hitting really hard, right? Like it still feels like Sunspot. He can shoot if he has to, right?
Yeah, he's very much in your face,
right? But he's a puncher,
and he gets good benefit out of that whenever he gets extra dice, spending the flare tokens he uses on UV strike. He hits his trigger with heating up to get more flare tokens a little easier. Yeah. So he feeds into himself with his flare token economy.
Definitely benefited a little bit from like the Hela economy, right? That was definitely an inspiration of this character with the soul tokens and how those tokens regenerate. And then the other big thing before we move on to the next one is that Sunspot absolutely was designed as a linchpin of the New Mutants, right?
Of course.
The whole time it was like if every New Mutants affiliation squad doesn't take Sunspot, we've probably missed the mark on Sunspot.
He's a heavy hitter for them, yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump to our next reveal, which if you watched the Survival of the Fittest that we talked about earlier, which was a big focus on Apocalypse, we showed off Apocalypse's probably most famous henchman and horseman, which was Archangel. We're now going to go ahead and jump to the before Archangel, the Warren Worthington III, Angel himself. You see, this is right before he gets beaten up to the point that he has to go get transformed by Apocalypse.
This is this card by Dan Mora. Let me just want to say real quick, and this is just part of the art. This is from the legendary Mutant Massacre, where he is this is his most heroic moment, where he sacrificed himself to save the Morlocks. And I needed to get that moment in a tactical illustrate. I just had to. It just meant so much to me. And
there it is.
I'm glad we got it.
There it is. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at his amazing miniature, as well as his card. So this was done by Javier?
Matt Bouliard.
Matt Bouliard, okay. Incredible job on the wings.
Look at those wings.
Yeah, great job on the wings, and then a lot of the drawings that were given to us was also inspiring us with the shape language of the smoke and all this as we continue to develop our effects, and so it lifts them up pretty nicely, and I think it complements the silhouette really well.
No, I especially love how these two pair together, and they were both the same sculptor or different sculptors?
Same sculptor. Huh?
Yeah, so like the movement, the way you represented flight differently for those who didn't see the Archangel. I think we only showed the card actually, but I'm not sure if the miniature's been shown yet. Who knows? But we did some really cool effects between the two, and I love how one is like so serene and very, very
lifting
angely,
up, heroic.
Yes,
classic.
And then the other one is just murder.
Yeah, punching through and just like I'm here.
So a really fun parallel, and then of course design-wise with the character himself. You know, Archangel we looked at, very aggressive, very in your face, very much wants to put out conditions, do damage, be death for Apocalypse. Angel here, very different,
Yeah,
much more of a
definitely.
support piece. Flyby is a really interesting attack that I was excited that we were able to make work with the Beam 3. But kind of walk us through, Angel and his place within the original X-Men, and how all of that kind of comes together.
So yeah, Angel has heavy mobility and helps the affiliation have more mobility, right? His airlift lets you move affiliate characters, and hostile takeover lets you move enemy characters. But it takes a little bit to set that up. So his flyby places you next to the character so that you can then take a move action and move the enemy character away. So really the play pattern that he wants to be playing is he wants to have someone in range at the beginning of his activation so that he can fly by next to them and then do a hostile takeover and pull them out of position. But if he can't do that, then he does have some very strong tools for moving his allies around and setting up in the back, right? And he does have teeth as well with his Avenging Angel. His spender is pretty impressive, right? It has a throw and 7 dice, and Wild Stun is extremely strong.
Yeah. And of course, he's got the healing factor 1 to represent some of his angelic blood.
Yeah.
Which we made a choice. We're like, we either give him a rocket launcher or we give him the healing blood.
Right.
Because they're different moments in his kind of comic progression.
Exactly.
And the rocket launcher seemed a little silly for this character, especially compared to Archangel, because now you have a rocket launcher. It feels like both of you are very aggressive. So we went with the healing factor 1 angel blood.
We'll get the rocket launcher or something. But yeah, he's an amalgamation of several different things, right? And yeah, this is, if anyone's scratching their head, why healing factor? Yeah, there's a storyline in the early 2000s where he had healing blood, and that's come back. He actually recently was able to do that again. So yeah, we drew from everything from Archangel. And then a fun fact, when I was watching Schick make this character, like we were trying to figure out like a good name for that moving your opponent's thing, and then like a genius Will Schick, is like, he's a businessman, hostile takeover, and I was like, oh my god, like I was furious. It's one of the best names for an ability I've seen in a long time. It's awesome. He's super fun.
It's what he does, he's a businessman.
He is
a businessman, a philanthropist, if you will.
Yes, he is.
Let's move on to some not philanthropists. That's a lot of words. And get into the darkness of night and the moon.
Spooky season.
That was that was almost I thought you were werewolf howling for a second, and I was like, perfect intro here. Both excited and slightly howly. So we showed off the art for these fine monsters during the Adepticon panel. We showed off some of the sculpts. It's about time that we show off a bit more as we move closer and closer to the best of what do I want? Holidays. That's the word. Holidays,
that's right.
Halloween. So
Long
we have
3 days.
the top half of the image featuring Werewolf by Night and Incantu the Living Money. Let's go ahead and jump into their next piece. So here are the miniatures all painted up and finalized, and of course the card for Werewolf by Night. I had a lot of fun. I think everyone had a lot of fun with these monsters, right? It was
definitely.
It was such a break in difference from the art side, the sculpting side, just getting into those different niches of the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
And going to that classic like horrorscape monster Marvel or monster movie.
And it was cool making the design through line for the monsters. Like they all heal themselves. It's really cool. They all regenerate. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, and then of course the tactic cards, which are based on that Quadratech piece of art that Josh did, that pulls everything together, which does include the moon phase for Werewolf by Night.
It certainly does.
But I'll be honest, like out of all of the pantheon of monsters, werewolves have always been my favorite. So getting to design a werewolf for the Marvel Crisis Protocol was fantastic, and I took every opportunity to make him as crazy as possible. Yeah. And then, of course, you ruined it, Ben.
Yeah. I mean, he was...
Not really. Actually, I think he's pretty close to where he started, just with some dial tunings. I don't think anything radically changed.
It was mostly number changes, That's mostly what happened in playtest here.
Yeah. But you want to talk a little bit about his playstyle, what he brings to his home affiliation, Midnight Suns?
Absolutely. I mean, he's mobile and a threat. He's an aggressive threat. So he's very powerful with his builder with Savage Slash and his pounce at size 3. He has very reliable damage and very reliable movement with his that is attached to his attacks, right? He also has this a bit of a condition game where he can howl at them with his unholy howl and give conditions, and he has conditions on both his Savage Slash and his Lycanthrope. And the main defensive mechanic that he has is if you attack him, he gets to attack you back, which you don't really want because he has, again, that really strong builder.
Right. Yeah. Unearthly Howl is definitely the one that I was most hopeful that we could hold on to, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out because, that iconic moment where the werewolf howls and everyone like recoils in terror.
It gives him a really cool pattern. He can focus one character down and then howl at another, and they just don't want to come at him anymore, right? So, and his healing factor makes it so coming at him just a little bit is not effective. Right.
And then we're not going to look at Incantu's card. We're going to save that for like a Halloween treat or closer to Halloween treat. But Mark, you want to talk a little bit about sculpting both of these characters? Obviously, getting to do a werewolf, classic, and then of course the mummy. I think provided some interesting opportunities with all those wraps.
I mean, it was super fun and exciting to do monsters. Like we do so many superheroes, so many people in spandex all the time. So it was a nice, like, not that we hate it, but it's just that it's a nice little break to do something a little different.
Yeah,
change
of pace.
Yeah. Change of pace and shake it up, and obviously having classic monsters, like, that's a lot of fun.
And one of the big things as we look at all of these monsters, right, is that you not just sculpted them in terms of cool posing, but you also had to think of their composition because these do set on the Tomb of Dracula in a specific way, right, to kind of create a display piece when you're not playing with them.
Yeah, and Mike Jones, he sculpted all the characters of these monsters, and Kevin Kirkus created that tower, and they both had to work together to get this positioning right and make sure that everything looked good composition and that it all worked cohesively, and they did an incredible job. And I think these are great display pieces for your miniatures. I mean, these are awesome miniatures at the end of the day.
And all the bases obviously match certain sections on the tower,
where the
so
tower
you set
is.
them on top of the terrain when you're not using them in play, or when you are playing a game with them, you can engineer places where you can get the cool look.
Yeah, the little green things by Incantu's feet.
The little green things? Yeah. Oh, they're little green things, little granulars. To be honest, I don't
remember.
I don't remember that.
Marco,
detail.
you got to pay more attention to what your boys are doing.
It's just there's so many Easter eggs in this whole pack. Especially the tower. The tower has lots of little Easter eggs into. Scarabs. There you go.
Tony thinks they're scarabs. So that's
I think they're scarabs as well. I was just trying to confirm with Marco. I'm sorry.
No, you just jump out there.
Oh, yeah.
Fine. All right, let's take a look at the second half of the pack. So bottom half of the card, obviously, we have Frankenstein's monster and the one and only incomparable Dracula. We're only going to show one card.
Yeah, Dracula when?
We know which card we're going to show. It's going to be Drax.
Dracula now.
Dracula now, exactly. Thank you, Josh. Another just super fun character to design, put together, and play. My one requirement, even though it was almost meaningless in terms of how the rule structures, but to me it was a flavor fail if we couldn't do it, was to have the bulleted list of the different things he turns into.
It's not meaningless. It's very, very cool.
But you can write, my point is you can write the rule without the bullet list, but like explaining what those things are, and so you can see it in your mind when you pick it. You're like, I'm turning into a bat. I'm turning into a
bat.
I'm turning into Mist.
Yeah,
like,
the Mist is
so
the one.
Good.
Yeah, that is so cool. Whenever he drops all the special conditions and heals, and because he turns into Mist, it's just very, very Dracula.
Yeah. No, I was like, anytime you can kind of set up those prompts in play for you to be like, okay, sometimes rules explain themselves, right? But then there are times where it's like, well, the wolf effect could be a bat effect, the mist effect could be any of them. Yeah. Defining that so that when you do it, you feel the scene, you see the movie, and you get that moment to be like, you've attacked me, but now he's missed, and then he like misses away.
It's beautiful.
It makes me so excited. I cannot wait to have these characters on the table.
Yeah, I mean, Dracula is the vampire of all vampires here. I mean, he heals so many ways. He heals with Blood Feast whenever he attacks. He has Eternal Hunger for whenever you attack him, he can attack you back with, including Blood Feast to heal himself. Right, he has Mist for the shapeshifting, and he has Unholy Vampiric Immortality, which is like Blade's rule, but just taken to 11. Right, so his sort of get damaged and then come back and hit you harder is insane. I mean, he's taken that to a whole different level.
Yeah, I really wanted to capture that idea. I mean, every time he shows up in the comics, right, or in any media, he's always chasing after trying to drink the blood of superheroes so that he can enhance his powers and become truly immortal and all this stuff. And so we had to play into that. So Dracula himself, not part of the Midnight Suns affiliation, does slot into a couple of the evil affiliations, the bad guy affiliations, but also brings his own ability to effectively create an army of vampire thralls. And so, well, not listed on the card because you can see the card is very full and we didn't want to cut anything. You can run the vampire thrall affiliation with Dracula taking the helm as well from the box.
Yeah, we have a tactic card,
Yep. And of course, you also get all the bats, Marco.
All the bats.
Less bats than were originally there, though, I might want to point out.
But, yeah, actually, yeah, it's true. There was a lot more bats, and we would wanted to make 1 million bats, but we'd have to make this a fun miniature to put together, though, so limited bats. But now bats and birds are officially in scale in MCP. So
it's a good amount of bats.
You get to pretend that he can turn into bats, and then all the rest of the bats are there.
And they
just to make it really hard to figure out which bat is him. And look at his little smarmy face, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, you had to. I mean, he knows.
He's giving you the eye.
Yeah, I mean, he's not afraid of you, right? You know.
Oh, I think that's the come here stare.
Oh, well, I mean, he can,
so
hypnotize you. He can
so
hypnotize
hypnotic
you.
stare,
He
that's
can
exactly
hypnotize you.
So
I mean, that's a very hypnotic gaze right there.
Yeah, he uses that a little different. Like we found in playtesting, he tends to use it to pull characters in so that he can suck their blood or hit them with his ancestral sword and Fury of the Vampire, which are both insane attacks. So he's just very, very powerful. Very, very powerful up close, and that hypnotic stare, bringing them in, helps him out a lot.
Yeah. So in addition to the Monsters Unleashed character pack, there's also, of course, the Tomb of Dracula terrain pack. This thing is phenomenal, done by our own Kevin Kirkus. He was supposed to only sculpt an approximate bulk out so we could see how big this thing was going to wind up being. And then he effectively turned over something that was 60% finished.
I mean, that's just how we roll. I mean, once we got a cool idea, we just go through it and get it as far as we can.
I feel like he was like, I really like this. I'm just going to make sure that it's so close to finish. We're just going to do it.
That you can't say no.
I mean, you can't, because this is a glorious terrain piece.
It's
There's so much.
yeah.
It just oozes character. It's incredible to put on the table. Like we said, we also designed it so that you can effectively mimic Josh's art piece that he did with where the characters are located and everything. And it just comes out looking really, really great. And then, of course, it comes with some one-shot cards, as all of our train now do. So if you're playing with it on the table, you can also add some flavor into your games. Somebody asked if you're playing with Dracula, do you have to play in the dark? Well, you certainly can with Darkness Falls.
Yeah, this is the effect that kind of sets the mood. Whenever you put the castle on the table, you can give all characters on the table stealth, so the darkness around Dracula's castle, and you can make it very sort of you make your game much more menacing feeling with that. And then we have the Hunter Seeks Vengeance, which is the opponent of Dracula gets to put in a free Moon Knight or any 3-threat character.
I was gonna say a 3-threat character, but I would
any 3-threat character.
I would suggest a Moon Knight.
I would suggest a Moon Knight. And gets to hunt down Dracula, but Dracula can pay 8 power to get that character to go away.
That's right.
Right? Which is pretty fun.
Pay his due.
It's a fun mini game that you can play. It's just it's kind of a different you can add a little minimal game mode, right, to your game. And so coming with the castle is really, really cool. It just sets the scene.
Yeah, and I mean that the mini game aspect, right, is really what the one-shot cards are all about. They're all about adding that extra little bit of narrative or fun.
Yeah, just to mix up your game.
Whether you're digging through a dumpster or you're trying to get paid by Dracula.
Yeah.
You've sent out your debt collector, or turning off all the lights on the battlefield and stuff like that. So I really enjoy what one-shot cards have brought to the game. Just in terms of being able to make the battlefield even more of a narrative aspect.
Yeah, definitely.
And more a part of the story, right? And it's one of the really cool things that Marvel Crisis Protocol does is the terrain in the battlefield. In all games, it sets the scene, but it also becomes, in this game, it becomes part of the action. It becomes part of the story.
Yeah, I'm really excited that people can get to set their scene a little bit better now with these one-shot cards.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and dive into maybe a surprise for some, maybe not, maybe an expectation for others. But another character pack that's going to be coming out later this year, which is the Wrecking Crew and Abomination. So there's a glorious piece of art featuring Abomination. You know, talk anything about sneaking your favorite character into the corner of this piece?
How come everyone's my favorite character, which is kind of true, actually. Yeah, this is Sergio Acuna. This is one of, I don't want to say anything, but this is a very big attack that Mr. Abomination can do. And yeah, we have to throw in Hercules, you know, like, of course we're going to have Hulk in there at some point, right? But we got to show that he also fights others really, really strong people, and who better do it than the Prince of Power himself, Hercules, you know? Does this mean anything for the future? Who knows, right? But, you know, we'll just leave it there for now.
All right.
I'm turning his radiation up to 11.
That's right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's go ahead and take a look at these two characters. So if you've been with us for several roadmaps or have been with us mini stravs, when we showed off Immortal Hulk, we gave the little teaser that Immortal Hulk was sculpted specifically to pair with a certain character.
Yep.
Marco?
And that character was Abomination.
Woo!
You put him face to face with each other, kind of like a Wolverine Sabretooth confrontation, and then they go really nicely composition.
Tableau, as well.
Tableau.
It absolutely just looks like it's straight out of a comic panel with the way the motion goes. And they were sculpted basically at the same time for that reason, right?
Yeah, Mike Jones did an incredible job. He did both Immortal Hulk and Abomination, and he had them pair really well with each other, and you get some really cool, like if you want to do miniature photography, you get really cool composition between them, different angles. It's really awesome.
Such a good mini.
I for one, I'm excited for both these characters, but Abomination is kind of special in that Abomination was originally intended to be the third release when the game launched alongside Hulk. And then in conversations with Marvel and stuff, they suggested that we do MODOK instead. And so we kind of pivoted, and then Abomination got put on the shelf in the release cadence for a while, and we finally gotten to the point that we have our Abomination, and it's very exciting. And then of course the Wrecking Crew, people have noticed they're all on the same base. So much like Nick Fury Sr. and the Howling Commandos, we kind of talked briefly about how to do these characters. Like, well, they could all be separate, but the reality is that, you know, given the scope of Crisis Protocol and given the way these characters work, thematically, it just made the most sense that they're the best. They're the strongest when they're together. It's how they operate. Yeah. And then we got a really amazing design from Will Pagani for these characters that emphasizes that to like the utmost degree. So you want to walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we had to mix up just a little bit of the effects from Will Pagani's design, but other than that, it was just like a knockout. Just because it's so specifically designed to get all of the Wrecking Crew into a flurry of attacks back to back to come into one character. So everything on the card kind of serves that role, including the additional power by Enchanted of Carnilla. And then you bulldoze with Bulldozer, do 1 damage to the character by moving in, hit them with Indestructible from Thunderball, who can put stun on them. Hit them with Pile Driver, which then, if they are stunned, you can give them Stagger with the Wild Trigger. And then you can use Let's Take 'em Down, Boys to make a third attack for the round, which lets you do Wrecking Bar Fling. And if they are staggered, then you get to throw them away short, right? So you can combo it all together. And these guys, whenever they do that, whenever they get to do everything, it's just stunning. Like it feels like you're getting swarmed by a squad of super strength guys. Like it is really, really fun.
It absolutely, like, it fulfills that fantasy of when you see them like fighting a Hulk, and they're kind of all coming at him from all different sides, and the Hulk is off center, or when they're fighting Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's trying to deal with them all. You know, like, it really delivers on the entire theme of these guys, and I think it, you know, well, they could have been separate and maybe gotten some of that, the fact of the alternating activations and everything. I don't know.
Also, the construction through crew theming with the Wrecking Bar, and then them with their terrain destruction from the Wrecking Bar and Bulldoze, and just like having the Wrecking Ball, you know, as well, the Indestructible Ball, which is nearly indestructible Wrecking Ball blessed by the Wrecking Bar, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just really, really fun.
I think this design turned out really great. Absolutely captures the essence of the characters and is very fun. Like you said, when you get the Rube Goldberg machine to really work, you're just like, this is fantastic. I almost used my one, and I'm not allowed to use my one on this one. So hold on to that one. All right, so let's jump into our last of the card reveals. If you were with us for the Team Tactics dive, we of course showed off 2 of the 3 Team Tactics we're going to be coming with. You can go. with Mephisto. So this is the last piece of art. Josh, you want to walk us through this beautiful piece, this image here?
Yeah, this is by Eric Guerrero, and and again, this is just a part of it. You'll see it in its full glory upon release. But yeah, the notion is he's always making deals, right? And this is the most benevolent deal you may ever get from a Mephisto, which is still really evil and not a good idea to do in any way, shape, or form. You know. But yeah, we love this piece very much, and I think all 3 cards really help sort of show his theme of not being a very nice person.
No, Bruce Banner can finally live the life he wants with Betty Brant and not be the Raging Hulk.
That's
but then
right.
all the good deeds of the Hulk would go away, John.
Forever.
That's what we find out in issue 4.
That's right. That's exactly right. And he has got to make that choice, that sacrifice. That's right. Oh, Mephisto, when will you stop?
All right, let's go ahead and jump and take a look at all 3 of the Team Tag cards. We're not showing off his character card just yet. We're saving that because, of course, Mephisto's got to make you suffer a little bit. So we're following his rule. But here he is, gloriously painted. So we showed off the render of the sculpt at Adepticon. This is done by, of course, our prolific painter Brendan Roy. Just beautiful overall. He does come with that awesome, unique base.
He's a big boy.
He's a very tall, muscular.
Yeah, he is very big.
Demon man. But here are the 3 cards. Very excited for people to finally get to see the entire kit when his character stat card comes out. But we're going to hold you in a little bit of anticipation for that. We don't want to give it all away just yet. Marketing has to have some fun too.
That's right.
Yeah.
But just know, I think overall, out of all the releases in the last couple of years, he has been the most anticipated one internally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We've just been very excited to finally bring him into the game and see things go.
We get to see his evil, Faustian deals a little bit more with Uppyanity.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, getting those Devil's Deal tokens and upping that maximum is crazy. So this is a really hard decision that he puts on the opponent whenever he does this. Yes.
All right, and so that's going to be the end of everything coming out towards the end of this year. So we're going to move into just showing some final painted miniatures of things that we revealed at Adepticon. I think some of them were just art, actually. So we showed the art for Elsa Bloodstone Man-Thing. Here are their finalized miniatures, all done. Marco, fabulous job. That Man-Thing is so good.
It's great. Dave Kidd did both of these, and yeah, knocked it out of the park. Man-Thing is awesome. Like, there was a lot of like, how much detail do we throw on Man-Thing? You know, we have to balance it because, I'm a big fan of letting people paint, do their painting skills. But ultimately, I think we found this nice, beautiful middle ground that looks really, really good.
And Elsa brings a brand new leadership for Midnight Suns, some very cool abilities to her kit that really emphasize her monster hunting skills and let her team be better monster hunters as well.
Yeah, we got to see kind of that monster hunter utility tool chest kind of feel from Elsa. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, and so these characters will be coming out early 2026. Very excited to see them on the table, and Elsa's always been one of my favorites, so I'm excited to be able to add her to my Midnight Suns list and do some fun stuff. Going off-world, though, where monsters aren't but different, we showed off art for Nova and Yondu. Here are their miniatures in glorious fashion. That Yondu, so good.
It's great.
I feel like I say that about all the sculpts, but the arrow, like we talked about how to do the whistling arrow and everything, the Yaka arrow.
How are we gonna glue
and
it? Yeah, all that stuff.
Oh, it's so good. And he's got that beautiful Captain Morgan's pose that fits like the Yondu character.
That gets
this
that
smarmy like attitude.
Yeah, Joaquin did a great job in this. Joaquin Palacios, and then Alex Sedinger did Nova. That was one of his earliest projects that he went right into, and did a great job overall with the sculpt. Yeah, incredible miniature effects, and I'm really proud of these two.
And it was also really fun because when we were working on Yondu, right? So if you were with us during the visual design panel that we did yesterday, we talked a little bit about the different tracks. So when you work with, the Marvel universe, you kind of have to pick: do you want to do movies? Do you want to do comics? Do you want to do something else? And we went with comics. One of the things is that a lot of the times everything bleeds over into each other. So they find a really cool design in a comic, it winds up in like a movie or an animation. You find a really cool design in a movie, it bleeds over into the comics. Yondu was an interesting one in that it wasn't until right when we started working on this character that they had done the movie costume, but he didn't actually have the bow and he didn't really use the arrows. He was more of like a blaster cannon kind of Ravager leader. Had the same sort of attitude, but then they did this mini series of Yondu, specifically focused on Yondu. And he actually meets his multiversal self, the original Yondu. And that's where he gets the bow. And so then all of a sudden we had this touch point to where Yondu gets his bow, he gets the arrows. And so it was this cool amalgamation of the classic Yondu, the modern Yondu, and then a little bit of a nod to what a lot of people know from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So it was super cool to pull everything in. I did mean 2025, if you're asking. I'm sorry, I get my years mixed up all the time. It's 2025, that's next year.
Oh,
it's 2024 now.
Yeah.
My brain is in 26, 27.
Oh, yeah, no,
everything that's
mine
going
is
on.
too.
So I'll probably say that a couple times, but it's 2025 for all of these.
Don't worry, I almost cried too.
I know. It's just too much.
For all the ones where we haven't revealed the rules, the 2025.
Yes. So Elsa and Man-Thing, early 2025. Yondu and Nova, 25. And we do have a timeline slide that'll come up at the end, which will catalog all this stuff. It's not exhaustive, but you'll be able to screenshot that and know where things are. But I probably will get my years mixed up because I don't live in the present, and it's very difficult for me to come back.
It's true.
I don't know, when you guys asked me about the Scarab thing, I was like, that was
so long ago. That was like 2023.
I'm
Come
sorry,
on.
Marco.
What's going on?
Put you on the
I've
spot.
seen that forever. And then, of course, Nova, an exciting big hitter coming for Guardians of the Galaxy. One that was very difficult to get through Josh. He very much kept us on track and was very insistent that we do Yondu right, or Nova right. Richard Rider, the man himself.
Yeah, I mean, because again, this character has had a lot of different versions, but people that know, like, there's almost two big Novas. There's regular Nova and Nova Prime. And Nova Prime is vastly more powerful than standard Nova, right? But a lot of people's favorite costume is the Nova Prime costume.
So it's the one you see a lot.
Yeah.
So we split the difference.
We split the difference, right? So this is not Nova Prime officially in a rules context.
Right.
But there's a little bit of that. In the costume.
He's close enough.
He's good.
Pretty powerful.
He's powerful, but he's
all right.
He's close to the standard.
So we're burning our time up. Let's move on to the next one, which we're gonna go back to semi-space, which is Atalan the Inhumans. So a big boost to the Inhumans. Some amazing sculpts. We have a brand new King Black Bolt. We have a new leader in Maximus the Mad, and then of course we have Gorgon and Karnak coming in to add extra support to the Inhumans. This pack, I mean, that Black Board's phenomenal, Marco. The effects and everything on it, like, it's just so good.
Yeah.
And so a whole new slew of characters, and alongside of them, and part of the reason that we're seeing a return to the Inhumans is we have a brand new product type that's coming out. Super excited about it, and that is the War of Kings character and crisis card pack. So Ben, you want to walk us through really quick what to expect from this pack?
Yeah, so you get the character Gladiator in the pack, who has really cool confidence token mechanic. We can talk about that if we have some time. But we have the crisis card pack. You're getting 5 secures and 5 new extracts, and a little kind of mini campaign that you can play that matches each of the secures with one of the extracts, and so that lets you relive the War of Kings comic arc.
Yeah, effectively we went through the whole arc of War of Kings, and we kind of matched up, the big events. So the wedding of Ronan and Crystal, the capturing of the Shi'ar Empress, the Guardians of the Galaxy going back in and saving them, and then even past that into like when they get stuck in the Cancerverse and things like that. So we went through the whole of that. And the really cool thing about it, like you said, you can play them together, play them through narratively, use Gladiator in the places that make sense, and then you can add them into your normal crisis packs.
Yeah, took a lot of time, took the lessons that we learned on the crises that we've seen so far, and applied them to these to make them some of the best crises we ever made. I think some of the most fun interactive ones.
We have seen, I mean, we get positive response from our playtesters quite a bit, thankfully, because we work really hard to do that, and that's one of our litmus tests. But the amount of positivity that has continued since this product launched, and them playing them in their playtesting games consistently over the other, it's been really cool. So very excited for this. This is going to be a new product type that's going to continue to inject new narrative and crisis cards and potentially characters into the game, and so we're really thrilled with what this brings to the future and to expand on it for more. Yes, the crises are for standard play. There's going to be more information as we get closer to that release about how that's going to work and how Challenger and things like that are going to function within that system. But the goal here is to provide crisis for all different forms of play, both standard and more competitive styles, and to make sure that the game is always expanding and always interesting and fresh, and that we have a good pool to pull from to do interesting things within the meta of the different event styles that we do.
I'm very excited for this to come out.
Okay, let's jump into things that you have. Well, you haven't seen this. This was a brand new reveal, so that's
Right.
exciting. You didn't see the Inhumans. They're all painted. Let's go a little
Here we
further. Let's go into
go.
things that we don't even have painted yet.
Yeah.
The Brotherhood getting a huge boost in reinforcements coming later next year. We have Lady Mastermind, Avalanche, and the one and only Exodus. We all know how good of a dancer Exodus is now from X-Men 97.
Certainly.
So there's not much more to say about these characters except that we're going to have more to say about them, more to show off, I'm sure, when we get to Adepticon 2025, but they are coming. Moving on from Mutants, we're going to see some reinforcements for the Defender levels characters. We have Echo, Tigra, and Ronin. We're not going to spoil who's behind the mask for Ronin. Avid comic book readers know that it could be anyone.
It
could be a
anyone.
boat.
Could be anyone.
But we do have these characters coming as well. Going to be adding stuff to Defenders, to Avengers, to probably a couple other affiliations. So very excited for that.
Man, I'm waiting forever.
I've been waiting for Tiger for quite a while. She's one of my favorite, like, detective-style characters. Some of her solo arcs have been really good. Josh, of course, has been pushing for Echo forever.
Yeah.
And Ronan's he's just a badass samurai.
Yeah, he's
so what do you
amazing.
say? And Marco, your team knocked all of those sculpts out of the park, but I especially love the base elements for Ronin.
Yeah, Evan King went in and reworked this piece, and really awesome stuff. And there are head options for this mysterious Ronin.
So you can reveal who he is when the time is right.
But the time is right.
And time's right.
We have a couple more things to show, one of which is just one little tease from an upcoming character pack from late next year. And that is we're going back to the Spider-Verse.
Yep, yep.
And here's Spider-Man 2099 from that pack. We're not going to talk at all about who comes with him just yet, but there are more spiders coming. It's a very exciting time. Spider-Man 29 love letter by our own Kevin Kirkus,
Of
right?
course, yes.
Loved it, killed it, did
Really
amazing.
beautiful, yeah.
For one of the most anticipated characters. They
I
wanted.
Really,
I think this
really
was
cool.
one of Kevin's most anticipated
He
characters.
was. He was very. He
Yeah.
jumped on this project. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised he put aside some just to get this one out.
It's true.
Yeah, just incredible dynamism, everything that's there. I love how he got the Alchemax in there. The character design has been really fun to work on. So really thrilled to be able to show more about this wave when we get probably to Adepticon of next year. I know a lot of that's
Absolutely.
happening, but we're moving forward into the future. There's only so much
Get to make
that
an
we can do
aggressive
here,
Spider-Man.
right?
They're
So
not
cool.
ready. They're not ready yet for this. So.
All right. And I think, before we leave, even though Tony's holding up the stop sign and he's like shaking it vigorously, he's trying to get us to go, we want to give you one last thing. You waited until the end of Ministrav for your roadmap, and I think it's about time that X-Men got their sixth threat, right? Well, they're more than sixth threat.
It'd be really cool if they
It
could
would
get
be.
it. Yeah,
They're like a big, heavy threat character, right?
yeah.
It's probably. Do you think we should do it?
I mean, I don't know. It's your choice. I mean,
Is
you're
it my
the boss.
choice?
I think so.
I feel like you tell me no all the time, though, Ben.
I
Marco,
do.
what do you think?
I think it's time to set fire to this. And
All right, burn the
do
world
it.
down, Tony.
Yeah. Finally.
Finally. So here's some gorgeous art directed by our own Josh Colon.
And yeah, this says it all.
This is the Vogue cover that features the ladies of the X-Men.
And again, there's more. This is just part of it. There's quite a few.
You can
X-Men in
kind of
this one.
see, I think, some
little
hair down there.
There's some Cyclops and
little,
some
little
Wolverine.
Cyclops or Gambit hair, maybe.
Yeah, but this is by Sergio Acuna. And yeah, this says it all. Here she is, Phoenix in her
Phoenix.
glory.
Yeah, and let's
Coming
take a
to
look.
MCP.
Let's take a look at the sculpts because we do have the sculpts. There it is. This is such a good mini.
It's really nice.
The way the flames kind of like wing behind her and everything, it's really cool.
and it wraps around her arm, and it's really this miniature comes together really nicely.
But of course, people have probably noticed that it's Phoenix and Phoenix Unleash. And as we all know, the Phoenix is a powerful force, but it's also a dangerous force to use. And when Jean Grey really lets it out, bad things typically start to happen, and she loses a bit of control. And so
Look at that.
in the game, of course, we had to represent the fact that she's always tempted by the Dark Phoenix and the power of it. And so she can transform, willingly or unwillingly, into
flame
this
effects, man, they're so
incredible version with her flame pillars and everything else. So this sculpt just phenomenal. A huge centerpiece for the X-Men or just any Marvel Crisis Protocol team going on crazy. So Phoenix is finally coming later next year. More information to come on that. But that brings us to the end of our roadmap for the 7th Ministravaganza. Here is the release schedule. You'll notice it's marked as non-exhaustive. We do like to keep some things as surprises for later on, so you never know.
You never
maybe
know.
we've showed you everything, maybe we haven't. Marketing does like to have his fun as well. Of course, we're going to have another one of these roadmaps that's going to continue on the tradition of showing you the next 12 months of where the game's going at Adepticon next year, 2025, not 2026. But we will have one in 2026 too, because that's what we do. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today, for all of your insights, all of your hard work, all of your dedication, and all of your amazing passion. Couldn't be more proud to work with a great group of people. Of course, thank you to all of my staff who have been with us this entire Ministrav and doing so much work that makes these roadmaps possible, from sculpting, from art, from graphic design, our amazing graphic designers who put all this stuff together, put these roadmap slides together, our marketing team that's been engaging with you all and scheduling things and making sure that we have coffee and drinks and all that.
Exactly right.
I'm doing a little bit of a pre-closing ceremonies thing here, but I just want to remind everybody, there are 4 of us here because that's what we can fit on the camera, but there are 38 of us behind the scenes, plus a huge team at our publisher, Asmodee, who make all of this actually real and possible. So please take a moment when you're in the chat to thank all of them. Just give them a little shout out. What is it, F5 for respects?
That's
only when they fall.
A fantastic job.
Tony needs to bounce back a little bit here. Just I need a little bit more from Tony, okay? A little bit more. Need you to bring it up a little bit. We're not at the A game, so thank you so much. Be sure to stick around. Dallas Kemp is going to be painting the incomparable Mephisto next. So if you want to see what that miniature looks like in all of its hard plastic glory, learn how Dallas Kemp is going to approach painting such a phenomenal character with all the flames, all the reds, all the good stuff. Stick around because he's going to be doing that right now. Till next time, thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.